Hey everyone, welcome to the Convos with Anita Santiago podcast. I am your host, Anita Santiago. Please like, share, subscribe, and follow the podcast on all the social media and podcast platforms. If you ever want to reach out to me about the show, you can reach me at convoscws at gmail.com. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What are we talking about today? Well, as I was, thinking about my next few topics for the podcast, I started thinking about the saying, the grass is greener on the other side. And my question is the grass always greener on the other side? I've heard that, I've heard that saying a lot over the years. It's been said in multiple places, multiple circumstances. And what it really alludes to is that we see things outside of ourselves as being better than what we already have. And so it appears to us that on the other side, the opportunity or the experience may be better. Now, I believe this saying goes way, way back. I don't know where it originated. I didn't really look that part up, but I know many of us are familiar with that saying. And I want to ask the question, is it really greener on the other side, or are we just imagining that it is? I would say that most people say, well, I don't really get into that. I don't really think that. But you do. We often do. And we don't realize that we do. For example, when we look at someone and say, I wish I was that size, or I wish I had that hair, or if my hair could be longer, or if it could be shorter, if it could be more full, if I could be taller, if I could be shorter, if my legs weren't so long, if my legs weren't so short. Um, I will, I see a relationship and I want to be in that relationship, or I'm in a relationship and I don't want to be in a relationship. So there's many, many times, even throughout the day, where we don't consciously necessarily think that we're thinking the grass is greener on the other side, but our words and our actions and our expressions say exactly that's what we're doing. So, in this mode that I've been in 2025, talking about self productivity and how to push ourselves forward, how do we get out of that mindset? How do we change our perspective, and how do we avoid putting ourselves in a situation where we're wishing for things that we think are better, but may not actually be better for us? So let's start off with how this type of thinking impacts us. Well, first of all, when we consider whether or not the grass is greener on the other side, what that's really saying is there's a level of dissatisfaction with whatever we're thinking about in that moment. So if I look at someone and I wish that my hair could look like that, or my legs were longer, or my feet were smaller, that's one I do a lot. What it's saying is that the things that I do have, I may not really understand the uniqueness or appreciate those things that I do have. And do we consciously try to be unappreciative? I don't think so. But that thinking takes us away from looking at ourselves and really celebrating the things that make us unique. Now, in conjunction with the saying, the grass is greener on the other side, I've seen memes and I've seen reels on social media that says, if you water your own grass, it'll be green. And I think that's where we're really going with this topic, to say that, if I water my own grass, or if I attend to those things on my side of the fence, then maybe I can really appreciate those things and utilize them or leverage them in a way that is impactful. So just stepping back and saying, okay, so if I'm wishing different things, then maybe I can turn that around. We have to be careful of how our perspective can lock us into thinking that just isn't helpful. Um, and I'll just take some examples. When we see, let's say you're on a weight loss journey, right? And you're looking at Lizzo or other celebrities that have had amazing transformations, and you say, "Oh my gosh, I've been working out forever. I can't seem to get anywhere. If only I could do what they did." Well, how that really locks us into thinking that's unhelpful is, first, we're defeated in that moment because we're saying that because we don't have the same thing someone else does, then therefore the work that we've done, um, we may not understand how important it is. And so we don't want to lock ourselves into thinking that's going to prevent us from continuing to work on goals or continuing to push us forward in a helpful way. We want to be able to stop and say, you know, I really appreciate the fact that that person was able to accomplish a lot. And also, what I'm doing is pretty cool too. So, in the example that I just used of a person being on a journey to live healthy or lose weight, and they're looking at celebrities and maybe not feeling like um, that they're accomplishing anything, if you're not able to stop and say, "Oh, well, I've been working out for 3 or 4 or 5 years. I feel healthier. My lab numbers are down. This is really, really good for me. And I know this is good for me, even though I haven't accomplished what that person has accomplished," then you're probably more motivated to keep going. I think this really comes into play with things I've been seeing in the news lately, like the whole issue around Brazilian butt lifts, BBLs, um, or any type of plastic surgery. There are so many procedures for men and women, because we just don't want to make this about the women, that can be enhancing. And I wonder sometimes the popularity of it, is it that type of thinking? Well, the grass seems to be greener on the other side. If I have this surgery done, this enhancement done, maybe I'll feel better about myself. Maybe I'll look good. Maybe I'll get the attention I want. It just really makes me wonder, because when you actually dig down into some of those procedures, if you don't do the prep work and you don't have the perspective, then just slapping a procedure on is not helpful. Now, don't get mad at me, y'all. I'm not knocking procedures. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do this, that, or the other. But what I'm saying, with especially with the popularity of the BBLs, I wonder if what we're seeing is that concept of the grass is greener on the other side. It must be better on the other side having a big BBL than it is on this side not having one. So I think that's a real example of how this type of thinking works on a larger scale, and how this type of thinking can impact many, many people. And so we want to be able to say that on my side, I'm watering my grass, I'm fertilizing my grass is growing, and I'm pretty happy with that. So that comes down to maybe appreciating our strengths and our uniqueness more than wanting what other people have. And so we have to take a moment and take stock. Now, um, part of the reason that I feel that the grass is green on the other side type of thing is so prevalent is because a lot of people don't have a sense of who they are. Um, a lot of people are not comfortable or confident in what they offer as far as their uniqueness. And that can lead to what I said before, like the discontentment. So with the whole BBL issue, I'm going to use that example again. If I'm not happy with how I'm shaped, or I'm discontented with it, or it doesn't I don't think there's anything good about my shape, then gravitating to what someone else has is a little bit easier, and we often do that. Remember, our culture is very visual. We're getting bombarded with images and video and social media, and you pick a platform, there's images coming at you saying that this is better than that. So if I feel like I'm in a category that's not as good, I can be discontented and really want that for myself. So this concept of understanding who you are is very, very powerful. I think when you ask people, who am I? A lot of times they will talk about their work or, different things in their life, but it's often very difficult for a person to really explain who they are completely. I know a very good exercise I used to do with my students when I was teaching psychology is I would have them write a personal statement about who they were, what made them unique, and what they wanted to do going forward. And it wasn't necessarily restricted to their career, but I wanted them to have a template to work from so that when they were in interviews or people were asking them questions about where they're going in life, it wouldn't be difficult for them to answer those questions. And I think sometimes we say, I'm a good person, I'm loyal, I'm this, I'm that, but can you go deeper? Can you describe more? What's your value system? What do you believe? Why do you believe what you believe? Is that something your family believes, or is it something you came to believe for yourself? And I think the more you can look at those unique pieces of who you are, the less likely you'll be daydreaming or wanting to be someone else. So, or wanting to have the things that someone else has. So, I feel a good sense of self. Understanding who you really are is the first part of appreciating the grass on your side of the fence. Another thing we can do is we can be grateful. I know gratitude has been one of my words for the year. It's on my vision board for 2025. Gratitude in the way that you are unique, gratitude for the opportunities that you have, um, just saying that you're grateful. And when you focus on gratitude, sometimes like I will do something like this. Let's say I wake up in the morning not feeling my best. I will literally say, I am grateful for, and I will start going down a list to I literally have said so much that now my perspective has changed. I'm ready to tackle the day. When you can be grateful for the things that you have and the abilities that you have, the talents, you're less likely to look across the fence and say, "Oh, that's so much better." Um, I've always wanted to crochet. Crochet is my new hobby right now. And the first time I tried to crochet, it was a disaster. I don't know what I was doing. My cousin said I was crocheting backwards. I don't know how that's possible, but I couldn't create something that looked really cool like I was seeing online. And I really got frustrated and I quit doing it. But several years later, I tried again and I was just, you know, trying to be just a little bit more grateful for having hands that could do things and be creative. And when I stopped trying to be like all the wonderful women in my family that are amazing crocheters, and I just kind of settled into just being grateful to have a cool hobby, well, what do you know? My crochet skills improved, and that was pretty cool. So, again, just being grateful and appreciating what you do have and how that does make you unique can be very helpful. Okay, so what's your green? So we say the grass is always greener on the other side. So if you're looking at something on the other side, Have you defined what that is for you? So, for example, I know when we talk about the grass is green on the other side, a lot of times that often applies to relationships. So, what is your green? If you find yourself looking at others saying, you know, I wish I had that kind of relationship in my life. Well, what's a successful relationship for you? What's a happy relationship for you? If you define those things on your side and you know what those things mean to you and what you want, maybe when you look on the other side of the fence, you could say, "Hey, that's kind of cool, but I'm I'm pretty cool with what I have as well." So, defining and making sure that you understand what those things that are important to you are and defining them. Defining them is the key piece because often we'll say, I want a successful relationship. Okay, specifically, what does that mean? What are the elements for you, or as far as you're concerned, of what a successful relationship is? Often, I'm surprised when I ask people questions about what they say, they don't necessarily have the details. Maybe they haven't thought it through or haven't thought down to that level. But that's absolutely critical if we want to get out of comparison culture, comparing ourselves to others or what we don't have, so that we can be appreciative and grateful for what we do have. And I got to say that the whole social media, digital space is really contributes to some of this. Um, how we consume information and what we consume is really important. I've done a couple of podcast episodes where I've talked about ways to make your social media experience relevant to you by uh, narrowing the content to those areas that you're very interested in. When we are bombarded by constant viral videos and perspectives and opinions, sometimes it can make us feel like we're missing out. And so, uh, with that concept, I might be thinking, you know, the grass is greener on the other side when you can travel across the world, or you have money or cars or um, access to resources. And that can be problematic and get us in that type of thinking. So, cutting down your screen time and making sure that the content you're consuming and the information you're consuming doesn't put you in a space where you're wishing for other things. Somebody on your timeline just won some money. Let's say they play bingo, they won some money, and you find yourself saying, "Man, I wish that was me." Yeah, that's saying the grass is greener on the other side. Like I wish I could have what that other person has. Comparison culture, right? And when you have so much coming at you on social media, movies, talk shows, even, um, that can feed into that. And you can find yourself more often than not wishing that you had something that you see someone else having. And that's what we're talking about, really, in a nutshell. I bet you if you took stock of how many times a day you actually think that way, you may surprise yourself. You may find out that you're thinking the grass is greener on the other side more times than you care to admit. And that's what got me thinking about this question in the first place. That's what brought this up as a topic for me, because when I thought about myself, I was rather surprised at how much I do that. And I'm like, you know what? This is an area I definitely can mark down for self improvement. I can start working on changing my perspective and catching myself when I'm doing that, and rerouting that energy and appreciating what I bring to the table and my uniqueness a little bit more than I do. We all are amazing people. So there's something like, I think the number is 7 billion people on this planet. None of us are alike. We have unique talents, skills, knowledge, and ability in our, in the area in our lives, in the people that we influence. So we really don't have to compare ourselves to others. But what we do have to do is learn how to better appreciate who we are and what we do have instead of saying what we don't have. And I think that is a great place for self improvement as we continue on this process of improving ourselves, increasing productivity in 2025. Understand this concept of the grass is greener on the other side. Just understand it for what it is. It's really comparing yourself to others and wishing for what other people have. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You can appreciate what other people have. You can say, oh, okay, you've got this and you've got that. That's pretty nice and that's cool. This is a great opportunity for us to really understand that we can be in a better space, that we don't have to compare ourselves to others. We don't have to worry about what other people have. And we can really turn that whole concept around and appreciate and be grateful for who we are, what we bring to our spaces, and how we influence the world around us. I just want to thank you for letting me bring this topic up. You guys know I usually have a lot of thoughts about a lot of different things, and I just thought this was one that we very rarely talk about, but it has real world implications. I mean, it really impacts us on a daily basis if we're honest enough to admit that we're doing it. So understand that your happiness and fulfillment in life is going to come through being appreciative and grateful for what you do have. And just take a moment and start reflecting on your own uniqueness and what you bring to the table. And I'm sure you'll be pretty amazed with the amazing person that you are. So thanks so much for stopping by the Convos with Anita Santiago. I appreciate each and every listener that comes back for more. Again, like, follow, subscribe, and leave a review for the podcast on the podcast platforms. Also, follow the podcast on all the social media pages. And thank you so much and happy listening.